Hey, Periscopers. Hey, guys, a real quick scope today. I wanted to, this is actually a preview. I'm working on, right here, right here, working on our weekly online business platinum podcast that we put together and release every single week and sometimes multiple times each week. Working on a topic today, and I want to just preview it for you. More details over at the podcast, of course. The topic is sort of the four critical things that entrepreneurs need to be working on every day in their business to be able to enhance that business. Now, this doesn't just apply to entrepreneurs, by the way. It applies to, I would say, anyone, even in their life, but definitely in their careers and their jobs. Wherever you aspire to make great improvements in your life, you need to be focused on these four things. And what are they? So, number one, they are, and let me just check and make sure this feed's working here because not seeing, let's see. Yeah, looks like it's okay. All right, so the four things are, number one, making sure that you are either creating, updating, or at least reviewing your critical goals that are purpose driven in your life. And what do I mean by purpose? Well, that's a big word, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it on the podcast. But really, purpose to me is having a way of life and making sure you're living in alignment with that way of life, right? Hey guys, thanks for joining. Hey Anthony, good to see you. Where are you guys coming in from, by the way? You can post where you're coming in from. I'm just previewing real quick today. It's a quick scope, and I'm previewing a podcast that we're putting out within a few hours, working on that right now. But one of the topics we're covering on the podcast, amongst Facebook advertising, traffic generation, et cetera, is sort of the four daily activities that entrepreneurs need to be focused on the most. And I wish somebody had taught me this probably 15 years ago. We've learned this ourselves over a number of years, learned this by dealing with a lot of multi-million-dollar entrepreneurs, building businesses with them, building businesses alongside of them, and helping coach them. So the number one factor we had mentioned was focusing on your goals, making sure you have those purpose-driven goals in your mind every single day, reviewing them, and that you're tweaking and updating them. And purpose for me is really just, it's more a journey that changes over time than it is an actual end goal or objective, right? So living in alignment with the values that I have and aimed and making sure that my life is on a course where I can live according to those every single day, that's actually the purpose that gets me, jacked up and out of bed at 6 in the morning every day and gets me working. Well, actually not working. It gets me spending time on my business, and I don't even think of it as work, and that's the ideal place to be. The number two activity you want to be focused on, we're going to dig into these more in the podcast. The podcast is available, guys, over at highertrustmarketing.com/blog. You'll see all kinds of content up there, but you'll be able to see a category that says podcasts. You'll be able to tap into those weekly podcasts we do. The number two thing you want to really focus on is generating content. It doesn't matter, whether you're an employee that's trying to get a next level in their job, whether you're a business person just starting out, whether you're an experienced business person that's going offline, online, being able to generate content. Now, what's content? So content, there's all kinds of different content. And what I mean by content is, let's go through some of them. Long form content. That's where you got a blog post, thousands of words. You do a couple of those every week. Those are your sort of tip, techniques, strategies. You're sharing value with your market. You're sharing solutions. You're sharing in-depth types of information. Then you've got sort of 3 to 5 minute consumable blocks of content, and that's shorter blog posts. That's 3 to 5 minute videos. That's streams like this that are 3 to 5 minutes that you share. It's content that's consumable in bite sizes, and it may be very focused on providing a tip, technique, or strategy, answering a very specific Q&A that comes from your market. Hey guys, thanks for joining. And that content is pinpoint, and you can usually put that out in about 15, 20 minutes. You can produce that kind of content. And finally, you've got the really tiny, I call it micro content. You can do this all through the day. And these are little tips, techniques, sayings, quotes, links to your long form content, links to your medium length content. But you want to put this out throughout the day, and you probably want to put 5 or 6 pieces of this sort of bite-sized content at minimum we find it's much more effective. You can put 10 or 15 of these out. And these are, real short Facebook posts, Instagram posts, Twitter posts, really short streams, really short blog posts, comments on other people's blogs, comments on product related websites. These are all little pieces of content. And ideally, you want to bring people back to your longer form content that you have posted that we talked about earlier. All right. So you should be developing that kind of content every day. That's the second activity that's really important for our entrepreneurs to be spending their time at. Now, number 3, we want to be talking about your marketing, right? Building and really operationalizing your business, making sure that your websites are converting, making sure your sales pages are spot on, making sure your messages are spot on, making sure your landing pages, your sales funnels are spot on, making sure that all of that is working, because nothing else matters. I mean, you can spend all the time you want blowing your brains out trying to get traffic, trying to get, create content, create a name for yourself, branding, all that kind of stuff. But it all goes for naught if you can't convert those people once you get them to your website, right? And you can have the best products in the world, right? We've known lots of people. I've worked with lots of people who have come into infomarketerzone.com where they've had a really good product. They may have had to tweak a little bit of the positioning around it, maybe the title around it. But at the end of the day, what their real problem is their marketing sucked, right? Their landing pages were horrible. Their websites were horrible. In a lot of cases, they were marketing the solution itself instead of marketing the benefit. They were marketing what people should do and how they should do it, rather than marketing what they're going to see at the outcome of using their product or consuming their products, right? So you got to get that right, and you should be working on that every day. No matter how you might have developed your website, you might have developed your sales funnel, your landing page, but you need to be tweaking that every day. You need to be testing it. And then number 4 is you need to be taking action every day in your marketplace. So the 4th thing you should be doing is always, always, always spending time in your market, engaging, participating, getting into the weeds with your customers. We do this a lot through, we used to do it a lot more through surveys and through engaging our customers that way. But now what we do is we release content, we release products, we release low-end tripwire products, we release higher-end products. We even develop with our marketplace high-end products through doing webinars, seminars, things like that, where you're engaging with the market as you go. And so you get immediate feedback, you get immediate ideas for new products, you get immediate champions and followers that help you, that are engaged with you as you build your products. And there's nothing like, the biggest competitive advantage you have over all your other competitors in your space is the depth of understanding at an emotional level of your target audience. And you only get that by going into the weeds, by participating. So if you sell, like yesterday, we sold a bunch of ebooks online. And I made a point last night after 10 o'clock at night of getting on there and engaging directly with those customers. Not automated emails. They do get automated email sequences, of course, to download the product and certainly to get them off and running. But I contacted every one of them individually and asked them what their projects were, how we could help them, why they bought the product. And a good half of them last night, responded within an hour, blown away by the fact that somebody's actually contacting them personally when they buy a product. Nobody does that. And so engaging with those customers, I've already created the relationship that, a relationship for life. I've also got ideas for next products from them. I've got a real good idea of their projects and how my knowledge and my products apply to their business. I've got new case studies I can use in marketing, right? So all of that is critically important, that you be involved with your marketplace and you do that daily and you schedule that into your day. There's nothing more important than those 4 elements, okay? So if you didn't get this, go back and watch the beginning, because these 4 elements are really critical. Find out which ones that maybe you're not, maybe there's 2 of them that you're really doing well today, but there's 2 of them that you're missing out on. So, and if you're not doing any of them, then jump into them and start, focusing on those 4 things. Clear out your day, whatever time you have in the day, right? Whether it's 2 hours, whether it's 6 hours, whether it's 14 hours, fit an aspect of every one of those 4 things into your day, and you will find that you will be a lot more effective at building your businesses. The profits will come. And, head over to highertrustmarketing.com/blog. and you will see the podcast in probably 4 or 5 hours today. We're just producing it now. We'll put it together, edit it down, and we'll have a lot more detail on this. Plus, we're going to be talking about Facebook advertising. We've been doing a lot of that lately and consulting with different clients and also doing our own Facebook advertising. We're going to talk a bit about that, and we're going to talk about other ways of getting traffic that is both paid and non-paid. So going to be a lot in the podcast. And if you guys know me, I like to fit the podcast into about 20 minutes to a half an hour. I don't like these 2-hour podcasts. I'm not a big fan of those where there's just a whole lot of talking. I like, hard-hitting material to get it out there, and then people can have dialogue around that. We can follow up with future episodes. All right. Thank you guys for joining. And for all of you who are looking at this as a replay, thanks a lot. And head over to highertrustmarketing.com/blog, and you'll see all of our content there, and you'll see the podcast coming up today. All right. Appreciate you guys. Get busy, get active, build your business. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye for now.